Hello, once again, everyone. It's Steve, and I am here with Robert Beadles of Nevada. Robert Beadles, welcome. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Steve. Appreciate you.
It is my distinct honor.
All right.
As you know, we're going to cast you in our gallery of freedom fighters, which is rapidly growing, and it's all about freedom. So let me start out by asking you, what does freedom mean to you?
Well, I mean, Jefferson said when the press is free and everyone is able to read, everything is good, right? Everything is safe. But in traditional sense, when it comes to freedom, I think of what our founding fathers gave us. One of my great uncles is Ben Franklin. He helped craft the Declaration of Independence as well as the Constitution of the United States. And to me, I think that's a pretty good start of what freedom could and should be. And that's what we need to get back to.
So you feel you have a family legacy to stick up for freedom?
It's kind of like a bird that knows how to build a nest. It doesn't really know how, doesn't know why. It's able to do it. My dad, when he retired, he started tracking lineage, and he looked in to try to see what makes me tick, and he was able to track our lineage way back. And some of the interesting stuff here in the United States was Wyatt Earp and Daniel Boone, and of course Benjamin Franklin are all great uncles. Like 7, 8, 10 back. A ways back. But it was really interesting, and my dad just kept digging and digging and showing us all these. Notable people in history that who were directly related to. So I guess it's a calling.
Is God calling you too?
I'd like to think so. I know that I wouldn't have anything without him. What put me up to this, I guess you could call it a fight, was is more along the lines of my wife, and she's the one that has a much better communication style with God than I do. I know that He shows me He's real. I know that I wouldn't have anything without Him, but she's the one that pretty much has conversations with him of sorts, and he tells her, what's what, and she's the one that got me going down this road.
So your wife is acting kind of as a liaison between you and God. And do you feel that God is helping you in this fight?
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah, there's like I said, I'd have nothing without him. I just have a kind of a different relationship. He shows me things. He doesn't really talk to me, at least not in a way that I know. Some people, they just know. No, it's not like Jesus has grabbed me by the throat and shook me slowly, or told me, hey, dummy, do this. I kind of see things, and she's the one that told me that rather than telling people what to do, I had to show people. And so I built some of the largest companies in the country. I've solved problems for some of the biggest companies in the country, including the government. And I saw a way to fix this. And she said, rather than telling people, you had to show them. So that's what we've been doing for the past couple of years, is showing people exactly how to do this and bringing thousands of people in Nevada into the fold, and doing some things that have never been done before in any state. And we're seeing a lot of victories. So again, it's all up to God and us to do it.
Tell me about the this. Where are your victories coming from?
The this, like, is what victories have we had?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, to start, we've had successful lawsuits in Nevada where we've enabled every Nevadan to be a part of the observation process of the elections, which again was solidified in the NRSs but not enforced. We have court orders enforcing it in the two largest counties, and then thus across the entire state. We just recently sued for SB 406, which would make it a Class E felony, 4 years in jail for something as simple as annoying an election official, right? So that's going through the federal court system right now. We put together one of the largest sting operations in the country's history. We had about 2,000 people across the state of Nevada documenting the entire election process and catching them breaking damn near every law that there is in the election process, and including the NRS and HAVA and all the national voting laws and everything. Just we caught them, and so that's going to be coming here to court very shortly. So that's why you see you in court. So we'll be seeing them in court with some of that here pretty soon. We've exposed just countless issues. If you go to operationsunlight.com, you can literally see hundreds of posts here where we just expose all the stuff that's happening in Nevada, Washoe County, Clark County. Some of the team, they were responsible for opening up the churches during COVID. They've opened up, schools, all kinds of things. We've just had so many successes, and it's all due to God and great people. And again, we won't stop until our vote actually counts legitimately, because I believe that elections are the source of everything. Everybody likes to talk about all these problems that we have with the border, with wars, with child trafficking, schools, you name it. But it all goes back to elections. If you're the governor, if you're the mayor, if you're the county commissioner, and somebody comes to you and says, Steve, there's a bunch of pedophiles out there on Main Street, what are you going to do if you have the power to do something? You're going to stop that. If somebody came to you and said, hey, the border's open, there's thousands of illegals flooding the border, or if somebody said, hey, they're stealing the elections, you're going to do something about it. But what we constantly find is the people that are in power, they're not doing anything about it. Instead, they just have excuses as to why they don't do anything, or they don't discuss it at all. And so it all goes back to the elections. I can prove that all the elections, at least, for the past couple of years in Nevada are 100% rigged. And the people know this. The people in leadership know this. We've given them the evidence. So the fact that they're not acting says that they're complicit, right? You can only get by with ignorance so much. So if you're able to put the right people in power legitimately to where our votes count legitimately, we solve everything. Rather than just thrashing at the branches on a tree, we go right to the root of the problem, which is the elections. They are strictly, compromised. They're illegitimate. And until we actually fix those, we can't fix anything. And so that's why I'm putting the primary focus on running amazing constitutional, moral, Christian candidates, as well as solving the election crisis immediately. Because if we're able to save the elections and put good people in office, all the other problems go away. I promise you.
I get that. It makes a heck of a lot of sense. What's the hardest part of that mission?
Well, it's when you're from the outside trying to get in to create change. That makes it difficult. So we've had a lot of victories getting good people into office, and they're helping. But obviously, when you have the criminals in charge of a bank and you say, hey, I want to make sure that register tallies out, they say, oh yeah, Beadles, you're crazy. Of course it tallies out. Or, hey, I want to put a new alarm system on the bank. What do you think the criminals are going to say? I want 24-hour video of the entire operations of the bank. Oh no, Beadles, we can't do that here at the bank. We need to make sure that certain parts of this thing is secret. Kind of like them counting our votes. Caught them on video, admitting it, counting all of our votes in secret. Again, violating every law that there is when it comes to elections. You have to solve the election problem to solve anything. The biggest problems, of course, are getting enough people to where they don't feel disgruntled, like their vote doesn't count, so why bother? So getting more people just to admit that the game is rigged and call these people out. If the majority of people would just stop complying or stop feeling so disenfranchised, their voice doesn't matter at all, so why work, why play at all the game? If they simply just stood up and said, you know what, we know that you're a bunch of crooks. We know that you're stealing our votes. We're not going to play this game anymore. We demand accountability, and we demand you resign. If everybody put the sunlight on these people, this crap would stop immediately. Instead, we just have, 80% of the country or so that says, hey, yeah, the elections have got some issues. Okay, but what are you doing about it? Oh, well, I got soccer practice. I got to take the kids to school. I got this, I got that. And they don't care what I have to say. Besides, that other guy's got it. I get a lot of that, right? So we have incredible people, but a lot of them, again, they just feel kind of disenfranchised to where, they're just waiting on somebody else to do it for them. And they need to do for themselves, rather than wait for somebody else to do something for them. That's one of the biggest problems we continue to see is people need to do for themselves rather than just waiting for Steve or Beatles to do it, right?
I get that. Have you always been a guy that gets it done, or is this new to you?
Um, well, I've been with my wife. I've been with my wife since we were 14 years old. So I had to learn at a very early age, married at 17, how to pay the bills and to build things. I've created some of the largest companies in the country. I've solved problems for some of the biggest companies in the country. I do not fail. I hate to fail. So when I start out to do something, I see it through. The idea of failing with this means that you've given up and you just simply allowed the country to circle the drain. Our legacy is to fail. Everything that our founders and all of our vets, lived and died for was for nothing, just for us to say, oh, well, our voice doesn't count. I'm going to let somebody else do this, or that's just the way it happens. No, so I refuse to do that, and I see things through. Anybody that knows me knows I'm one of the hardest working people that they ever meet, and God's blessed me with a pretty good mind to solve problems. And so through Him, through great people, I believe that we'll get this done.
At the end of the day, what does the country look like when we finally get it done?
It's never going to be perfect, right? But it can sure as hell be a lot better than it is now. So the way that it would work is if we're able to get back just to that founding document, our Constitution, the one that they say is old, obsolete, doesn't work because they don't use it. If we simply just got back to that and we put the power back into the hands of the people where it actually belongs, you would see people be able to take back their backyard, just like my good buddy, Dan Schultz with a precinct strategy, right? So you get people involved in the community that care, and you're able to actually take back one backyard at a time, right? So you take back your backyard, you take back the city, you take back the county, take back the state, you take back the federal government. How do you do that? Well, you have that Constitution in place where people actually follow it. And if we're able to do that, you're going to see it go back to the way it was in the 40s, the 50s, whatever. It's never going to be perfect, but it can sure as hell be a lot better than it is now, where you literally have every single plank of the Communist Manifesto. You can literally just check a box and see exactly where we're at within the demise of our country right now. And so we know that that's never worked. That's not what America's about. And if we can get back to our founding principles, get back to the Constitution, it's going to look pretty amazing, at least like it did in the 40s and 50s. And people might say, "Oh yeah, Beatles, you're going backwards. We've moved on beyond that." Really? Because when you talk to most 80% of people, they're pretty conservative. They don't think a lot of this stuff going on is natural, normal, nor do they agree with it. But a lot of them are just kind of quiet and complying, which is sad. When you think about how Americans were in the 40s and 50s and stuff like that, they had a spine, they had balls. We need to get back to that, and the rest, I believe, if you're able to get back to God, grow a spine, get back to the Constitution, it's going to be a pretty incredible place to live, and it'll be that beacon of hope again for the world versus what it is now.
I get that. So let's suppose we had an audience of 500 people listening to these words right now, and one guy stood up and said, "I'd like to grow a spine. Um, I'm not quite sure how to go about doing it. I'm ready and willing, but I'm not sure if I'm able." What guidance do you give this guy as far as getting into the game?
Well, the first thing is knowledge and education, right? So it's great to get into the game, but if you don't know anything, you're just going to look stupid. So you have to know what it is you're talking about before you stand up and start speaking. So if you already know all that stuff, well, then shame on you. You should be out there in the front lines telling everybody about it. If you don't know about it, you need to get educated. So a good place to start would be operationsunlight.com. You can look and see how we're exposing different things. You can look at how, we expose all the election issues. You can look at our past lawsuits. It's just copy paste. You can do the same stuff in your own county. Get that understanding in your mind, and then get other people that your family, your friends, your coworkers, stuff like that. Educate them. You got to do this quick. But if you know that the elections are rigged already, and most people already know that, and they have a pretty good understanding, right now what they need to be doing is demanding from their so-called leaders that the elections become legitimate. And there's things that they can do in every single county that just makes sense, right? You could have same day elections. You could have show voter ID. You could vote in your own precincts, report the votes in your own precincts, get rid of the machines. That should be like the rally cry, right? Those are just like simple things that work, that most first world countries do. But for whatever reason, which we all know, they stopped doing it here. And then as soon as they stopped doing stuff like that, you saw everything go from like conservative to this deep blue swamp that is not Democrat. It's basically communist at best. And so if we get back to saving our elections, just doing those simple things, just remember, hey, look, voter ID, we vote in our own precincts, we report in our own precincts, we get rid of the machines. You do that kind of stuff, election day, not election month and a half. I'm telling you, that's going to solve most everything, because if you save the elections, you save it all. So they can at least do that, and they can learn how to do even more if they want over there at operationsunlight.com. And there's links on the right to take them to other sites. And the main thing is just, learning enough to be able to demand accountability and responsibility from our so-called leaders to save our elections. Otherwise, it's all for nothing. And it's going to cost them. It's going to cost their kids, their grandkids, everything. So now's the time. It's not time to wait for
I get
somebody else.
that.
Yeah.
How do you deal with the flack that the so-called leaders give you? How do you deal with being the most hated man in Nevada?
Yeah, they call them Beadles bills, right? So they keep passing new laws because they refuse to debate me, they refuse to face me, they refuse to do anything. So they just create new laws trying to silence, people like myself or even me. Um, so it's one of those things. I've always had thick skin, right? I've had people my entire life tell me, you're never going to do anything, you're never going to be anything. I've created multi-billion-dollar businesses. I don't care what other people think of me. I don't care what other people say about me. I care about my family. I care about my friends. And all I care about is doing the right thing. And so if you know you're in the right, you know that you're doing what God expects of you. And you're going to be able to answer to Him one day and say, God, I did the best that I could. And you're able to sleep with yourself at night. Who gives a hell what anybody else says about you? Who cares what these leaders say? Be respectful. Don't be, violent or anything like that. Be peaceful, but just come there with facts and say, look, you're a part of the problem if you don't fix this. And here's the problems. And anybody that gives you a bunch of flack for that, say, well, it's pretty obvious that you're complicit in this, right? So then you go down a different road and you try to sue or, see you in court. I'll be filing more lawsuits. There's all kinds of things you can do. But look, you're going to get flack from certain people. That's just the way it is. Is that going to make you quit and stop? If so, I guess there's not much to you, right?
I get that. I'll take a look at President Trump as an example of uh, how ruthless they're going to get if they think somebody is going to cause that much trouble. Are you afraid of something like that happening to you, being targeted in a similar way?
I'm always targeted, right? The first thing they do is they start slandering you, right? So they call me a racist, they call me an anti-Semite. Could be furthest thing from the truth, right? That's what they do. They try to attack your character, then they try to sue you, they try to do all kinds of things like that. That just tells you you're over the target. It just tells you you're being effective. And if everybody starts doing this, they lose. If it's just one guy, yeah, it's a target for sure. If it's just Trump out there, saying all this stuff, doing all this stuff, and he's the only guy doing it, it's not going to get very far. But if you've got, thousands of Trumps, millions of Trumps, and I'm not saying that's a good thing, it's going to be a lot harder to attack somebody like him. If there's just Steve here doing the only one exposing the truth, it's going to be pretty easy to silence you. But if there's thousands or millions of Steves, think about how hard that is for them. So as long as it's just one man against the entire system, that's a problem. But the more people that grow some balls, a spine, stand up, becomes less and less of an issue for us and more of an issue for them.
How true it is. Let's fast forward 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 100 years. You've got grandchildren, great grandchildren, and multiple generations of Beatles. How do you want them to remember you? What's your legacy?
It's God and family first, right? So, and as well as the country. I mean, all they have to do is just, look at all the things that I've done. And I think, they'll have a pretty good understanding of who I am and what our legacy is from all the different, from how big the family got. I mean, hell, we'll have 4 grandkids within the next, by March. So I've already got 2. Like I said, I've been with the wife since we were 14. So my kids are grown, man. My kid's 28. Nobody believes that he's my son. My other kid's 20, see, 23, right? So both of them have 2 kids apart, a pop. So yeah, I mean, they're super proud. Let's just put it that way. They're amazing kids. The 2 grandkids I got now are incredible. They're going to know that I just did the right thing, and that's what most people have to do. You don't have to be Donald Trump. You don't have to be anything like that. You just have to do your part. That's what most people need to do, and I'll be happy to say that the legacy be like when people needed you to stand up, he did it. When people needed him to build things, he did it. He always put God, family, and country first. So that's enough for me.
Beatles, he answered the call. That's what they'll say. Well, I want to thank you so much for for taking the microphone today and showing us how you've answered the call. Um, it's amazingly powerful. And the best benefit is that there's going to be a lot of people now that see this interview that are moved by it and realize that they probably have a bigger spine than they thought. And you're just a guy that started his life on a hard note at age 14, and in terms of choosing the right woman, choosing the right path, and here you are. So I'm encouraged by the fact that the people that see this will say, darn, I could probably get on a similar path too, because he's Beatles, but he ain't Superman. So there's got to be some Beatles inside me too. Thank you so much for joining us.
God bless you. Have a great one.